Welcome to Daddy Ball, an in-depth look at the issue of parent coaches in youth sports. Something I've come across a lot recently is a lot of comments, Instagram posts, Facebook posts warning parents about the issues of joining a youth sports team with a parent as a coach. And I totally understand the potential bias that may come up, and we all have heard horror stories about some of these issues and biases. But I really wanted to get an in-depth look and really talk to some parents on teams to really see, is this as big of an issue as it's played out to be on the internet, or are some of these people making an issue out of something that's not really there? So we're going to talk with 6 different dads of various teams. Some are coaches, some are not, some choose to coach, and some have left that up to a paid coach. And we really just want to dig in, provide some value, and hopefully give you some different perspective on the issue. I think there's a lot of great points that come up in these discussions, and it's not a simple black or white, yes or no answer. I think we really need to dig in, find a little bit more information about that organization, and make an informed choice for yourself and your family. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys get something out of it. Please leave a comment if you've had any issues, positive, negative. Are you a coach? Have you joined a team with a parent coach? Whatever that looks like, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd love to get your perspective. Thank you.
Essentially, travel ball didn't exist the way it was now, right? There wasn't the dynamics of, if you wanted a competitive environment, you had to join a travel ball team. And now when you join a travel ball team, like a 7-year-old or even a 10-year-old, there's like 15 teams in Southern California that you have to pick, right? So back then it was like, hey, there's that one coach and he's the only one grabbing all the kids and he's kind of doing a couple tournaments and you kind of go in that route. Now with the dynamics of travel ball, I think the parents are even more in when you have too many choices. I think it's not that good at travel ball. Because of the fact that you have so many different options. Your assumption is that your kid is more competitive than rec ball, so let's go travel ball. Okay, so you go travel ball. Now the dynamics with the coach when it comes to daddy ball, I think changes, right? If you're put your kid in there and you're the parent and you're sitting in the stands, now your choice is the dynamics good with the coach? Is he putting his player like at short all the time because that's the best position? Is this kid the only one that's going to pitch today because it's his son? So you start asking those types of questions, right? You want to hopefully be able to sit back and enjoy the game and cheer and be positive for your son or daughter. But at the same time, you have to make these choices, right? So in a circumstance that we came across for our baseball, and I'll leave our team out of this, and
Yeah,
I'll
of
leave
course.
players' name is Dad X or whatnot, is we had created travel ball from scratch, or a travel ball team from scratch. And typically the way it's done nowadays is you realize there's a couple good players, you talk to the parents, say, hey, would you like to go to a travel ball route? That we have 10 good players, let's go ahead and do that. The situation being is, in preparation for this team, we decided, hey, we're going to have 2 coaches or 3 coaches officially, and we're going to have some dads that help us on the field in terms of drills and preparation for the game. During game time, we'll have 3 coaches, and that's it. The rest of the dad will sit in the stands and be a fan and be a dad for the day.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of where you talk about daddy ball, it's not even sometimes being the coach that you got to be concerned about as a parent. It's now who's around your kids, right? Is it other coaches that are going to have the mentality of being daddy ball or have daddy ball, where if they're doing a drill, this is our exact example. If that happened to us, is the coach would be doing drills with our kids as designated by us. Hey, go do a hitting drill. He would go do the hitting drill, and he would do the hitting drill, and he would partially be paying attention to the kid in front of him, but the majority of the time he was looking around for his own son to see what he was doing. Right?
Mhm.
How is he performing at this other drill? Do they have him in a certain position? And it happened pretty frequently, which is that, okay, he's gonna have to adjust. He's gonna have to be comfortable. He's come from being a coach to now being a supportive environment, a supporter for our team. No, it got worse as a couple weeks went along. In terms of being worse, is he would start yelling directions from another part of the field to his son. And that went from his son to yelling directions to a coach like myself. Hey, my kid can hit the ball hard. Why don't you pitch it hard? So hence, if you
Okay.
imagine, I'm doing the drill, I'm pitching to the kids during a hitting drill, and he's telling me while he's supposed to be doing one drill to go ahead and pitch harder to his kid.
Yeah.
right? And during that circumstance, I can only look at him and just really ignore him to the fact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this extended, without giving you a whole long story, but this extended to multiple practices. We go to our very first tournament as an official travel ball team, and he's yelling instructions from the stands. He's telling other parents how bad decisions we were using, with not that kind of a language, but he
Mm-hmm.
was using some cuss words and talking about how bad these coaches were. And it essentially got to a point where we found this to be unacceptable.
Yeah.
He started saying that certain players should not be in those positions that his son should be on. His son is better than those ex-players, and so his son should be first base. Well, his son is pitching. His son can't pitch, play first base, and be catcher. So now he designated that his son's the best pitcher, the best first baseman, and the best catcher, and the best shortstop. So immediately after the game, we had a conversation with him, and myself and the other coach had a conversation with him. It escalated in terms of language to the point where that evening we had to give him a call and dismiss him from the team. So when you talk about travel ball, unfortunately with daddy ball, I don't even think the concern should be the head manager with their son or daughter. It should be the other coaches. Are they focusing on daddy ball stuff? Are they only there to support their kids and not support the environment? Because if you think about how much time is spent, you have a 2-hour practice. How much time is spent of your son or daughter with the manager or the main head coach versus all the other coaches? The majority is going to be with the other coaches because of drills or hey motivational talks, very position specific drills. So the concern, I think, is more just the other coaches, right?
Yeah,
I think that's where the daddy ball mentality, or that's where parents should have a pause and say, who else is on this staff?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Versus just the manager and the coach, because they're so involved. Oftentimes they don't even have the time to do it. I find myself as the head coach for a baseball and a soccer team, I don't have enough time to focus on my kid because I got everything else to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. Now looking at that, so coach, so you asked him, that coach, to help out in some way, shape, or form. He wasn't an actual team coach, but if there was any, if we're able to look back on that now, were there any early signs or early warning signs that maybe another parent could have seen, or maybe you could have seen, that just would have, potentially raised a question mark or red flag? So what I'm trying to get at really is, if I'm a parent, is there any similar qualities between whether it's a head coach, assistant coach, parent, volunteer, that maybe we might be able to spot to kind of stop those situations from escalating like it did with your team?
I think there's scenarios, right? I think you can absolutely spot it. If you're at tryouts, right, and tryouts at a team that's from scratch, then everything's open, right? And you can kind of get an idea. You can kind of figure out what coaches or what kids or whose coach's son, right? And I think immediately from there, you can identify what's going on. If that coach is more focused on his kid during tryouts than the evaluation process, then that's red flag. Now, if you're going, which I've had this encounter too, and I think the majority of people are gonna encounter this. Your kid is joining a travel ball team, right? Baseball, soccer, basketball.
Yeah.
And it's an established team, so they got to try out or they got to participate in practices. Hey, come and join our practices for the next 2 weeks. We'll get an evaluation, and we'll let you know if your kid is invited to join our team. That even gives you a better picture, because you can get an evaluation on how the coaches are coaching the kids, how they're coaching your son, what's going on, if there's a more focus on certain kids. To do that, and by all means, if the coach's son is a really good pitcher or a shortstop and you've identified, then absolutely, it's great for him to go and play that position. But if there's opportunities for other kids and you see some dynamics where it's only like that kid going on, I mean, there's red flags, right? You go and practice, or you go and jump into a tournament with a team and say, hey, we're playing in a one-day tournament. Why doesn't your son or daughter jump in with us and play? Well, if his kid is all of a sudden bats first and he goes up there and he can't hit for anything, but at the same time the coach is saying, hey, we're not going to move him, we're going to move all this other stuff in there, or we're going to move all these kids back, then it should be a red flag. But at the same time, I would say be patient. It's a sample size of one game.
Sure.
But I think the evaluation process of your son or daughter during practices or joining a team should be, that's a keen eye, have a conversation. But I think even before if these red flags exist or they don't, I think every parent should have an opportunity to talk to the coach and ask them a question, not very specific about daddy ball, because I think some people take offense to it, but I think you can ask them a question pertaining to their strategy. What are you doing with this team? What are their goals for their team? Everyone's going to tell you it's to develop them. They're doing this and that. Everyone's going to give you the same spiel. But if you can talk to them about situations and give them a challenge, what happens if some of your players that are right now aren't performing? They're not doing well. They had a bad couple runs. Are you comfortable sitting them? Are you comfortable giving other kids the opportunity, or how would you approach that? Like, have that type of a conversation. If you have a good coach and he's willing to have the conversation with them, with the parent, then that's somebody that you should be on the team with.
Yeah, no,
somebody
absolutely.
said, oh, well, I'll deal with it later.
And
he doesn't want to have a conversation with you, that is a red flag.
That's going to be a red flag for sure. Now, this is going to be maybe a little bit more unique of a position, but do you have any issues with a parent who, maybe aging into an organization and wanting to come check out maybe like a game or two and watch the game the season before? Like, so if they called you up and said, hey, I'd love to come and check out, you mind if I come in and, watch a game and check out the coaches? Is that an issue for you at all?
No, absolutely not. No, they should definitely come in and do that. But it's rare that you're going to have somebody ask that question.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Rare. And I think it's absolutely great advice on your part from you to go ahead and tell parents, you should absolutely go check it out. The schedule nowadays with social media and the promotion of these teams, it can be a 7U travel ball team to a U15, right? Team that's going to a scouting tournament is absolutely go. Their availability to go in there and sit down and watch, whether you tell the coach or you just go and participate, it's absolutely great. If you are considering that, or any team is considering your player, then that would be the first thing that you should ask. Can I come and see some practices? Can I kind of come and see the game? If the coach gives you some, hey, absolutely, come on in. Versus like, what? Why do you want to do it? Then obviously there's a red flag. But I think every coach would be open to it, and I think the parents need to take it upon themselves to do further research. I think what happens in travel ball is a coach approaches. Let's say he approaches me and says, "Hey, your son is a great ball player. I've seen him do X, Y, and Z. We want him on our team." Now, most parents would be like, "Oh man, someone just told my kid is great." So yeah, I'll be on the team or this.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
About commitment, they never ask about like where does he fit in terms of your team? Where do you see him fitting in? Where do you see his potential? What would you want? How would you use my son or daughter? And I think it's taken an onus of it, right? I think it's taken an onus from your parents. Now, on the flip side, though, I will tell you, Sean, is this. Some parents will give you okay, great. Well, my kid should play short. My kid should play center field. My kid should play every position that's a hot position, right? And then as you get older, every position in travel ball is a hot position. But in the younger ages, my kid is the best pitcher. Are you going to pitch him? And the coach is like, whoa, wait a second. I haven't seen him that yet, right?
Yeah.
So there's both sides of the coin, though. I know
For
we're talking about daddy ball and we're talking about parents identifying red flags or identifying that, but there's also coaches should be able to evaluate and say, okay, I'm gonna talk to the parents. I'm gonna see what's going on with the coach, and if you get with the player, so you get the player there for a few practices, and you get a parent that's in the stands yelling instructions or getting on the kid. You might think twice about taking that kid on board because of the parent. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the world we've come in. I would supersede having a fun environment with good parents and developing the kids than saying, okay, I'm going to get 12 studs. Yeah. I'll deal with the parents as it comes with this and go try to go win this $5 ring. Yeah. Right. For each player. Like that, there is that, and there's two sides of the coin. Now, I think every coach will tell you where they fall. I mean, that's just their perspective, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you touched on something, very important there is that it's, sure, the parents and, athletes in some respect are selecting an organization, but the coach is also selecting the families to their team, right? And that may come across, you may be, you're a parent to your son on this team, but that really may not have anything to do with, selecting that other player, right? They could play the same
Yeah.
position. They could be completely different. They could be different athletes altogether. But if, you've already identified some red flags on a parent's side, that's going to, come into play. And that's, probably something that a lot of parents or families may not even understand, right? And they probably still don't understand it if you don't select them. They probably immediately jump to, oh, it's daddy ball. My kid's short. So is his. That's why we didn't make the team, right? Something like that. So I think that's really important for, parents to understand is, what are the questions you asked, and, how did you interact with the coach or the organization or the other family members on the team, right? I'm sure that all comes into play when you're selecting your team is, are they going to be a good fit for organization? Or like you said, are they, trying to coach from the stands and yelling at their kid right from day one?
Yeah. Yeah. That plays a big factor into it. I mean, one of the things that I've done, and not that I thought of this, is I took it from, I don't know where I read about it, is, people say, set the expectations as a coach or a manager, set the expectations on conduct, right? Player conduct, but also just expectations of the parents, right? So in the last 5 years, I took some samples from expectations from leagues and other stuff like that. Not that I was trying to copyright, but I took some ideas and said, okay, what can I do, a one-page document that I can hand to the parents? Here's expectations that include conduct and includes your commitment level and includes all that good stuff. And then we're going to have a conversation about this, right? And it's going to be very transparent. You can read this, we can ask questions, you can clarify. And let me just tell you the background on why I do this, right? So we have this conversation, we do it up front. About 99% of the time, it's worked great. The circumstance where we had to dismiss the coach, that obviously didn't work because we had the conversation and still went into that fact. But I think having the expectations not only from the coach's standpoint, right? And if you're an open coach, like some of these coaches say, hey, I'm very open door policy, then throw it to the parents and say, what expectations do you have of me?
Yeah.
Right. One of the expectations can be very simple because we participate in a travel ball team right now. I'm gonna tell you what sport, because the little kid might give it away to somebody that hears me.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
The coach there, I'm not a coach for that team, by the way, but so I'm just a dad. But the coach there shows up 5 minutes before each game.
Okay.
My expectation is for him to show up early.
A little bit earlier.
Yeah. You ask my kids to be there 30, 40 minutes earlier, and you show up 5 minutes before a game. And it's very consistent. Like if he shows up earlier than 15 minutes, then it's like, whoa, something, he must have had time today. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
day off.
Getting on time, being communicated, and all that stuff. And so if a coach the coach is open, then throw it to the parents and say, what expectations do you have of me? What works, right? I'm obviously going to try to work on there. My commitment is to the players. And unfortunately, good and bad, we can't be best friends with the parents. Like it'd be great if we did. And I made tremendous friends right now that I can say that are really good friends of mine, because I either coach their kids or they help me coach my kids, whatever it might be.
Sure.
But it's not always going to happen.
No.
So the dynamics there in terms of setting expectations go both ways, right? And I think it's just being transparent and being confident to say, okay, what expectations do you want? What do you want from a coach or travel ball team? What would you like? Not specifically, I want my kid to be a better pitcher, but what do you want from them, right? What do you initially want? And one of the things that a parent told me when they were considering our team was, I want my kid to try different positions. Will he get that opportunity, right? They came up to me and asked me that question. Will he get that opportunity? And I said, absolutely. Number one reason why is I don't know what position your kid plays.
Yeah.
I have to put him in different spots. One, he's got to show it in practice that he's willing to kind of listen and work in different positions. And two, he's got to be open to say, hey, Joe, I want you at third base right now in this inning. And he's going to go out there and hustle and go try his best. Or in the next inning, hey, I need you in right field, right? Somehow there's this whole connotation of, if my player at a younger age goes to the outfield, each of the corner outfields, that it's a demotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It isn't by all means. If I need a glove out there, then I'm going to put it on there. And the perfect comparison is Mike Trout, center fielder, making $500 million contract. Bryce Harper, right field, having to make $500 million contract. Manny Machado, he was told, we'll pay you this money, but you got to play third for us. Right? So it's a big change for these players, but at the same time as these kids should have the ability to play multiple positions. Because you don't know, a 7-year-old will be your stud shortstop. In 5 years, he may be your best right fielder that you'll ever have.
Yeah. You know, and I can speak to that. Like when I grew up, same thing. You know, everyone played infield, outfield. Everyone was all over the place, and I think you know, right around, I guess we had different levels, but like a 12U, you know, my coach, you know, put me in center field, and you know, maybe I was a little bit bummed. I honestly can't remember because now I've just been playing the outfield for so long, and you know, I am generally quicker, you know, and I still play in the outfield, but I was quicker than, you know, most on the team, if not the fastest on every team I was at. So the coach saw that made sense. And whether he had a conversation with my parents or not, I honestly can't remember because it wasn't that significant of a change. All I know is that I love the outfield, right? And that coach recognized that. And, you know, if you would have asked me where I wanted to play, I probably would have said, you know, second base, shortstop, something like that, right? One of the sexy, you know, middle infielders.
Exactly.
So, you know, I think, you know, trusting a coach like you're saying there, and, you know, not, you know, tying your ego into where your kid is playing, because the kid probably doesn't care, right? They just want to play.
Yeah. And it's one of those dynamics where, like I said, it was a great question. I'm glad the parent was confident enough to go ahead and ask me and say, where are you going to play my kid in multiple positions? Because I think that's a more valid question, I think, from a parent. And I think the parent should be able to be self-aware and say, I as a parent should not say, I know where my player should be, whether it's center field, whether it's forward on a soccer field, or whether it's a point guard, right? Like you're saying, the sexy positions in these sports, right? And say, my kid is Steph Curry, but at 7, okay, great. But if your coach at the time identified your player that he best fits in this position for now or this spot, allow it to happen. Allow to see what will happen, right? You have the ability to take your kid home every day, take him to a park, or let him just play outside and allow himself to develop in a better motion, right? You know, there's a lot of circumstances like that. Like I said, I've had to make decisions like that for some players that will essentially help our team. Where can we have them in position? But I've also been on the other side where I wasn't a coach, and my oldest son went on an all-star team. And during the entire season, he was shortstop. He played center field. He played wherever because he was faster than anybody else. So I needed somebody to quickly get to the ball. Well, he goes into All-Stars. They have 3 fast kids, and not all 3 of them can play shortstop. Not all 3 can play center field. So they said, hey, we need another glove. Go to right field. Go to second base, right? And he started at the bottom of the lineup. Towards the end of the All-Star season, he ended up being their leadoff hitter. So if you allow the coach to kind of take the reins, then it gives the kids the experience, right? My kid, I remember when him telling me, is like, hey, I got to play all these different positions that I normally wouldn't play. And it said I was happy, but I also felt kind of bad because I'm like, maybe I wasn't giving him the exposure.
Good
right?
point.
I wasn't maybe I wasn't doing my part to allow him to expose himself to other positions. And then I think back, I'm like, oh man, maybe there was other players that I should have had him try different positions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and there's age groups, right? You know, you have a 15-year-old that's been pitching for the last 5-6 years, then he's most likely going to be a pitcher, minus every other position that he can play. But younger ages are those ones where you have the opportunity to let go as a parent, but also let go as a coach and say, okay, they're going to show me in practice. Right. And if he can't catch a ground ball for the life of him, doesn't mean that he's not going to be a good infielder later on. It's just right now he may not fit into that profile.
Yeah. This weekend it may not work out, right? So
yeah, it may not work out, right? So move on to the next one. But it's tough. It is absolutely tough. We're dealing with that right now as we're building our all-star team with other coaches. Is like we're trying to see where all these 12, 13 players fit, right? There's 9 that you can field. And, you know, I would say we have 13 infielders. Because we've identified that they all play infield. They're great. But we need catchers, we need outfield, we need good gloves out there. So now we're kind of in that decision making process on where we're going. And it's funny, Sean, the number one question that came up to everybody is, how are we going to tell, or how are we going to communicate this to the parents that we're going to have there's going to be a lot of players that play positions that they maybe haven't seen them play before during rec ball or before, or they may have been the number one pitcher for their team in rec ball, but now they're number 5 in terms of depth chart. And that literally we have a parent meeting tonight to have some expectation talks and talk about that. So it's this whole travel ball, daddy ball thing. I think if a coach / parent, if they've experienced both sides of the coin, you have respect for both sides of the coin. You kind of understand, and you're kind of playing, okay, I've been there as a coach. I know how tough it is. I've been there as a parent. And I know how tough it is to sometimes keep my mouth shut or to be a supportive parent. Like how do you cheer? Like I've had to tell parents, hey, let coaches coach, right? We've all heard that cliche. Let coaches coach, parents cheer, right? And I tell parents, you know what cheering is? Right? And they all kind of give me a stare like I'm trying to be a smart ass, which I'm not. But cheering is like, hey, little Joe, good job, great job. And I tell them, you know what not cheering is? Hey, little Joe, move back. Hey, Joe, move toward first base. You're doing great. You're doing great. Stay there. That is not cheering.
No, that's very different. Very different.
Very different. And as we go in and we explain that, then the parents kind of go, okay. And the only reason I know that is because I've been a parent. And I've caught myself in my head saying, why do they have my son playing so far left? That's not where he should play. And all I can do, realistically, from out of respect, all I can do is just think it. I just want to say it, right? And then something happens and the ball gets hit right back to him. I'm like, there you go.
Oh, they know what's up. Yeah,
they know what's going on.
Absolutely. No, and I think what kind of the overall theme I'm hearing from you is that you have to give the coach a shot, right? If at some point you've identified that this might be a good fit for your son or daughter on whatever team, maybe whether you're a guest playing or you're doing a couple week evaluation, go and watch those practices, go and watch a couple games, but just try and keep your mouth shut and evaluate, right? Just take a step back. Almost remove yourself from that situation so that you can really kind of get a big picture view of what the coach is actually trying to do, rather than focusing on, okay, what is my kid doing, why are they doing this versus not doing this, right?
Because during an evaluation process, you shouldn't be evaluating your son as a parent. As a parent, you shouldn't be evaluating your son. So your exact point is, like, if you're going there to evaluate the team. Keep an eye on the coaches, keep an eye on what they're doing, and don't let a one-day evaluation cloud your judgment, right? Because if they're doing specific drills or they're doing something, they might not do that every practice, right? But evaluate the coaches, evaluate that, and make a decision, because travel ball, there's all these articles about, there's stuff on HBO about how much it's costing people taking out second mortgages, families saying, hey, we pay $100,000 a year to do this. It's a big financial commitment. And really, this has turned into a financial gain for a lot of people. And I have a friend of mine who has his son in travel ball for a older son, and there is no fees.
Okay.
Right? And the reason there's no monthly fees, there's no like this, and the reason they do it is they've committed to staying local. So the fees associated to traveling or doing all that, when they play a tournament, it's whoever's going to be there that weekend is how it's sliced up.
Okay.
And before it's even sliced up, they do a lot of fundraisers to cover their tournaments, right?
Got it. Yeah.
They do a lot of scrimmages locally where they'll be able to have access to a free park, and then they just invite the team that they would play in a tournament anyways. So there's ways of managing this without saying, hey, I gotta get a second job to do this, or I gotta choose between vacationing and playing travel ball. But all that is a focus, right? I didn't know that that's the way they ran it until I asked them. I said, how much do you charge? And he goes, we don't charge anything. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, this is what we do. I'm like, geez, As simple as it is, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So now as a parent, if I'm looking at a team, ask them, is there a way that we can financially not charge, or have you considered not traveling? Right. Everyone goes to Vegas for the World Series, and everyone does this and does that. Well, do I need to take my 7U team there versus my U12 and U14 team, where maybe you're getting some scouts already taking a look at them?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I don't take my teams that way. I don't take any of the teams out there. I only have anything. I've gone up to U10. I don't take anybody out there.
Yeah.
And the coaches agree, and the parents are like, thank you for not having us making this drive all the way over there.
Yeah.
Or pay for a hotel and do that, because it's a big financial commitment, right?
Of course. Yeah.
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 And
yeah.
what parents don't know either is that during this financial commitment, a lot of these teams charge X amount because the coaches are getting paid.
Yes.
Right. And we had initially, when you had reached out, we had talked about like coaches that have daddy ball, that have the kid on the team, right? That's pretty cut and dry, and what that means, versus coaches that don't have kids on their team, and what are the dynamics on that, right?
Yeah.
That changes a lot. That's a big decision making for the parents. But at the same time, from a financial standpoint, is why pay all this money, right? Why pay? What am I getting in return? Who do I have access to, right? And there's so many decision making standpoints, right? Whether you're playing girls softball, boys baseball, soccer, basketball, whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that, unfortunately, for the parents, is very tough. It's very tough, especially. And you played yourself, Sean. I played myself growing up, and I think I kind of know. I won't say I know. I kind of have an idea what I want for my kids in terms of sports. Will they go pro? I don't know. My kids are little. I don't know.
Yeah.
They may not to. I don't know.
Yeah.
But do I want them to learn and to develop and have fun and make some new friends, and hopefully I make some friends along the line with the parents? Yes, I do. But I don't know if they're going to go pro. And most of these parents have. I had a parent tell me one time. He goes, and it's because their child. How do I tell you this without kind of, hopefully if they ever see this video, they can find out who they are. Their son is a nephew of a former MLB player, pretty popular MLB player.
Okay.
Well-known MLB
Well-known.
player. Very well-known. Well, the dad of that MLB player, I guess, told him one time, hey, your son is showing all the signs of my son, who ended up playing MLB. And he's telling me this story, and I'm thinking to myself, he's identified your son. I don't know if you want to guess the age, Sean. Guess the age of the son.
Where are we, like something early, like a 12?
No, 6 years old.
Six.
So in that environment, you're telling me that, yes, your dad, who had a son that played MLB, you know what the percentage is, very low percentage that they even make it again, that even the brother makes it.
Yeah.
You're telling me that he, as a 6-year-old, has identified him as one of the sexy positions, and that he has a chance to go pro. So what ends up happening in the next couple of years? They put this kid through the ringer.
Oh, no.
Put him through camps and go year-round baseball, and they do this and that. We've lost touch, so I have no idea if the kid's still playing, if he wants to play, whatnot. But it's one of those, I'm like, oh my goodness, how can we put that much pressure on a 6-year-old?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So,
I actually had a great discussion. A good friend of mine was signed to the Blue Jays organization, and his experience was the exact opposite. There was no pressure from his parents. He was a lefty pitcher, so you already have a little bit of a leg up in terms of just the overall talent pool. But his parents rarely came to some of his games, and there was just a lot going on in the family, multiple kids, different sports. So there's no pressure. As long as he was having fun, they're happy to support. He played hockey and baseball, and just kept succeeding because he loved the game, right? And that's why he put that work in, because he genuinely loved going out there, night after night, BP or pitching, all that type of stuff, rather than hey, we think you're pretty good, like you're saying there, we think you're good. Now you're going to sign up for extra lessons. You're going to play on this team. Now you're going to guest play because we need to get more reps and get more eyes on you at 6 years old. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, you played it right. One of the things that stood out in your comment right now is that he played multiple sports, right?
Yeah.
That's an entirely new conversation. But if you pull it back to what we're talking about today, Daddy Ball, or just your evaluation process, right? If your son or daughter plays multiple sports, let that coach know immediately.
Yeah.
The reason why is this: my son plays multiple sports. Is that okay with you? Will that deter you from taking my son? Would you be okay that when my son has a hockey game or a basketball game and he can't make it to this game, is that going to interfere with how you view or you develop my player?
Yeah.
Right. Because if it is, if the coach says, no, you know what, I prefer, they use these, they try to make it all common and make it all okay, but I prefer he only focuses on soccer. Man, I'd be turning around, running out the door.
Yeah.
I'd be turning around, whether he plays multiple sports, or I would even say be clear, multiple activities, right?
Sure. Yeah. Could be, band, choir, something like that. Absolutely.
It doesn't necessarily matter, because I think that development in itself is going to be helpful, and it's going to help the parents make that decision, right?
Yeah.
If they're always saying, you know what, I think it would be best for him to commit to baseball for the next 10 months, then you're probably going to have some parents say, okay, great. That's the idea I had for my son too. And even though he's 7, he's ready to go. Right. Versus the other one's like, let him be. I mean, there's, Jim Tomei, who's he's on MLB Network. Right. Yeah. There was an interview with him and he talked about, like, do you have your kids in travel ball? Where are you pushing? He's like, nah, my kid don't play travel ball.
Yeah.
He probably won't even play 12, 14, and maybe he'll play.
Yeah.
Right. And it's different. I know there's a different perspective, because you're talking about an MLB player who's probably set for life with millions of dollars, and he can make a decision where that. But oftentimes where these kids and you have parents where, like, hey, this is my ticket out.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's so much. I mean, and it's great to say that, because you can say, hey, my kid, I'm going to push him hard at school because he's my ticket out. He's going to go be a doctor. He's going to be, I don't know, he's going to go run a company.
Yeah.
And do it that way. Right. But your kid gets breaks in academics. Why shouldn't he get breaks in sports?
Same thing. Yeah.
Different. Yeah, same kind of a framework. But yeah, going back to Daddy Ball,
Yeah.
I think if your kid plays multiple sports and you have a coach that's okay with that, then you found a really good coach. You found somebody that's willing to use it. You were talking about being. I played second and center field pretty much all my career. When I was pretty fast and get to the ball, but I also played soccer. And I was usually the fastest guy on the baseball team, not the fastest guy in soccer, because we have a bunch of soccer players. But I was fastest guy on the soccer ball on the baseball diamond. But I always played 2 sports. Like, that was just fun. I didn't make it pro, but I enjoyed playing it, and to this day, I still love the game. So I think parents have to make the decision, and it's tough. Like I said, I think the biggest key to this, if I could just say, one last comment, is just, as a parent, just be self-aware.
Yeah.
Self-aware as to the fact of, like, why'd you even put your kid in sports? When you put them in at 2-3 years old and you get them that plastic bat to hit off of a plastic tee to hit a plastic ball, didn't you laugh when he missed it?
Yeah.
It was hilarious. You probably have videos and you showed everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now he's 10 years old and he had a bad miss, and now it's like, hey, you're gonna walk home, you're not gonna get dinner, and you're not gonna play Fortnite, you're not gonna be able to do this, and you're not gonna be able to do that. It's like, be self-aware, because I'm trying to catch myself. We had a bad game last night, and I follow in the philosophy of, like, you have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. So I just stay kind of quiet.
Yeah.
My son had a bad game, and I got to remember those times where it was so fun to watch him miss the ball. So fun to say, hey, he ran to third base instead of first when he was 4.
Yeah.
Right? And he had a bad game. So it's just being self-aware and saying, as a parent, it's more than just Daddy Ball, right? Think about it as, what's your investment that you're doing, your time, your commitment, you leaving work early, you telling a family member, hey, I can't come to your party. Why? Because my son has a baseball game.
Yeah.
Right. It's a big commitment you make as a parent. So the Daddy Ball approach, it's out there, it's prevalent. There is always some part or some percentage of every team that has Daddy Ball.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to find the perfect team that doesn't have it. I'm not saying that, but there's always going to be a percentage. So what else are you looking for? What other environment are you looking for? Are you looking for good parents to be around your kids? Then that's a big selling point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of, it's tough for parents, and it's a big money grab right now for travel ball. Is come
Yeah.
play here. We'll be more competitive. We'll have your kids set up. I took my older son to try out for travel basketball. He excels in basketball. He likes it. He was curious about it, and he was a little bit afraid because it would be nobody that he knows. It would be a brand new team in travel ball. After the first tryout, we had a parent meeting, and the coach is trying to sell me on, not me, but the entire group of parents, on that their site or their location, their group or organization is getting kids ready for the NBA.
Wow.
Right
Okay.
there and
Yeah.
then I shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
My kid is 10 years old. That's right, my older one. 10 years old. Do I want him to be Steph Curry? Yeah, but in the backyard.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Backyard and go shoot threes all you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, nah, yeah, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not gonna pan out. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like you lost me at all you're trying to do. And he goes, if you start now, you look at how much more you'll be available. We've gotten kids, in D3 programs and D2 programs. I'm like, look, I went to a D1 program. I played a lick of college baseball or college soccer. I played in a mural, and I think I turned out all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
The percentages again of going and being pro, it's tough because in travel ball there is this big connotation of this big perception that if they go travel ball, it's the only way to get into MLB.
Yeah.
I hear that so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of a dynamic. But be self-aware, parents. Just be self-aware of what you want for your child. If there's daddy ball, there's daddy ball. Absolutely. Have a conversation with the coaches. Hey, if you're evaluating a practice or a trial, why don't you turn to your right or to your left and talk to a parent?
Mm-hmm.
Or you've been on the team that long. Hey, what do you like about the team? Like, what's been really good? When you guys have lost, like, what happens? Does the coach talk to the players? Does he talk to you guys? What goes on?
Yeah.
That in itself may tell you more than what you need to know from a coach.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think just listening to you, in this conversation, I think is probably one of the biggest pieces of advice is, and really what you were hammering there is just have those conversations and get a feel for what that coach is going to bring, right? You talked about your expectations conversation and the handout and how you run through a practice and all these things. I can tell right off the hop that if my kid is going to try out for your team, I'm probably going to feel comfortable at least coming to that organization, your team, and having my kid try out just based on this conversation here, right? So I think you can kind of tell a lot about a coach, just in the way they approach coaching and the team and the organization. And like you said, if they're shutting down or asking, hey, why would you want to come watch a practice, things like that. Well, you have some immediate red flags there, and I don't even think it matters whether they're, a dad or not. You're really just trying to figure out what that coach is bringing to the team, and are they going to be dedicated to the team and not just one, their child, or even like one or two individual players, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, awesome. Well, you know what? I'll let you kind of get back to your day there, but I really appreciate your insights here. Some really great info, and not just baseball. We talk baseball, but sports in general. That the whole travel sports, and whether it's travel or just youth sports, rec leagues, whatever it is. I think this is some really great, really valuable information for parents, and something that they can take year after year for years to come.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And I don't know it all, and I'll be the first one to tell you.
Sure.
I'm a coach. I'm a parent that seeks information and seeks understanding and seeks better to get better myself. Like I said, like, it's funny that we're doing this interview because last night was a perfect example where I probably need to be more self-aware as not only as a coach but as a parent. And what I do today and the decisions that I make that I have today moving forward is what matters, right? What matters after a big loss, as a tough performance for my own son. But it's who I surround myself with. And one of the coaches, I called him today, and I'm just like, hey man, this is how I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
And had a conversation around it. And I think we both feel better, and we both have a good understanding. And it's always like, how can we remove ourselves from the situation? And the first thing I did was like, yeah, my son's 7 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Like, it was that plain and simple. It's like, come on, Ray. Like, he's only 7. Like, you were 7, and nowhere. If I can remember, I was nowhere as good as he was. So, okay, let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let it go. Let it go, and try to be better. Yeah, try to be a better coach. Try to be a better parent. And just try to improve. Like if you're not the coach or the parent that's always trying to improve yourself, then you can't demand that from your own child. Right? You can't tell them, hey, do better, and then you're not self-aware.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's
and you're
tough
doing the
situation.
same thing.
But yeah, just we all got to be better. We all got to get better day by day.
Absolutely, absolutely, awesome. Like I said again, thank you so much for this. Lots of great info, and I'm really excited to put this out and have all of our parents and coaches. I think coaches and parents can learn from your experience and your insight and your point of view. Super valuable for everyone out there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Sean.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.